Matt, thanks very much. I am joined by Senator Perdue. Welcome to Washington. Welcome to Bloomberg as well. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Peter.
Before I get into your transition from business to government, I want to get your take on what we see playing out on our air today, what's happening in Paris. You've lived around the world. You're going to be a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Your take on what we're seeing in Paris?
Well, I'm saddened by it. It's a tragic event, obviously. My heart goes out to those folks and their families, but it's a reminder of how serious the threat to our own national security is, and we need to take that seriously. Obviously, the government's already said that we're going to partner with the government of France and help them in any way we can. But we need to pay attention to our own problems here with regard to our own national security as well.
It's a reality check for you and other lawmakers who are in this job now for the first time as to some of the challenges you face?
Well, it certainly is, and it raises just the reminder that we need to have a new and renewed sense of urgency about this whole thing of national security. Our border security is tied up in an immigration debate. Actually, it's a national security issue. And so we've been saying that for a while, and we really need to view it as a national security issue.
All right. We talked about the fact that you come from the business community. You're a turnaround specialist. Why in the world, first of all, would someone from the business community choose to come here in the first place? And what is it, after one day on the job, you see that needs turning around here in the U.S. Senate in particular?
Well, that's a long question. The answer is multifaceted. You know, we have so many areas of dysfunction in the federal government right now. But what drew me into this race was this financial crisis, our debt situation, the fact that fewer people are working in America than any time since 1978. And it's really made, the primary reason is government intervention. You know, the overreaching arm of the regulation arm right now, our tax structure and so forth. I felt like with my business background, I could make a difference. And that's why I came to Washington, to fight for the people of Georgia, help get people back to work, and really move the economy forward and help push back on some of the things that our government's done to hold it back.
We are seeing some improvement in the economy, certainly 5% growth, not something to sneeze at. Do you see that improvement, and is there something you can build on, even working with this president that you disagree with on so many policy issues?
Well, the problem is that growth is one thing, but it's artificial in many respects. First of all, we've got a huge debt situation in America, not only at the federal level, but at the personal level. Consumers are out of gas. It's going to be very difficult to see how the consumer drives this economy forward. We have an opportunity to export in this country that we don't take seriously. In our own state, agriculture is a great industry. It's the largest industry we have in the state of Georgia, but we only export about 5% of what we produce. We have opportunities all over this country to really get this economy going if we get the federal government out of the way.
You've never held elective office before. You have been CEO of publicly traded companies. Tell me specifically how you think that business experience is going to serve you well here, and where may be a limitation. You don't know all the ropes here in Washington. Maybe that's a good thing.
Well, I ran an outsider race. I've never done this before, never been in politics, never dreamed of it, but I believe that we can bring a sense of urgency and a sense of priority to the debate on the Senate floor. America wants that. People in Georgia put an outsider in here because they wanted a new outlook, a new fresh perspective to the problems of the day, and to break through this gridlock. If I heard anything in the last 2 years, it was get to Washington, find some way to move forward in a bipartisan way, not giving up our principles and values as conservatives, but find a way to get people working again. That's what I heard over the last 2 years.
You were a deal maker in the business world. Are you going to be a deal maker here? Are you going to be one of the people the president may be able to turn to and say, listen, where can we meet halfway?
Well, look, I don't know about halfway. I want to work with anybody that will help us get people working again in this country, get the economy going again, and really become the bastion for freedom around the world that we have historically always been. All of this is in jeopardy right now because we've taken our standard of living for granted, and we need to get back to earning the level of standard that we've become accustomed to.
Your first big vote could be on the Keystone XL pipeline. The president's already issued a veto threat for that legislation before you get to vote on it. Is that sending a bad signal to you about how things are going to play out the next 2 years?
Well, I understand what the president said, but we're going to do our job in the Senate, and that is we're going to have an active and vocal debate on the Keystone pipeline. That's our job. We haven't done that in a while, and I think under the leadership that we have now, we're going to debate some issues, push them to the White House, and let's see how the president will really react. But no, we're looking to the other side of the aisle to find a bipartisan way to get this economy moving again. And frankly, there are three things that need to be done, very simply. One is we need some simple tax tax reform. Repatriation tax is beginning to be discussed, the corporate tax rate. Then I think the over-regulation that we've been experiencing in the last 5 or 6 years needs to be addressed. And then third, this energy boom that could be ours if we would just unlock it are the three things that I think could really get our economy going.
You said during the campaign you couldn't commit to support Senator Mitch McConnell as the leader of the Republicans. Obviously, he is now. You're here. Any fallout from that? How's your relationship?
Well, it was a one-word answer in a debate with no context. And that context was I hadn't had a conversation with a senator. At this point, I like what I hear in terms of the priorities, getting back to work, and making the Senate functional again. That's what the people of Georgia want. They want the Senate to function. And let's have some active debates and find some bipartisan ways to move this country forward. That's what they sent me here to do.
One of the strange things about becoming a U.S. Senator is when you got sworn in yesterday, you had a session with Vice President Biden, the ceremonial swearing in with your family there. I saw you had a good time there. Your mother seemed to particularly hit it off with the Vice President. Are you worried about that? Is there a Democrat in the family?
My mother is very active politically, and she had a great time yesterday. But, you know, my response to this whole thing is I'm very tempered somehow. Honestly, I came here to get something done. I have a sense of urgency about it and a huge sense of responsibility. I'm anxious to get to work.
All right, Senator Perdue, thanks very much for joining us here on Bloomberg. Day 2 for Senator David Perdue in the U.S. Senate. Matt, Eric, we'll send it back to you in New York.